that there's like similar but different at the same time. There's common traits that you see, and I feel like there's always some kind of like camaraderie in that, where you kind of recognize that you're on similar trips or experiences or whatever. But the fun part of it is the differences between them too. So, yeah. There's a pretty wide range sonically. I feel like a lot of those bands don't actually sound that similar in a way, but there's some kind of core thing that seems to run through a lot of those bands. Just the Pacific Northwest kind of psych-inspired stuff. But it runs the gamut from like minimalistic electronica to really filled in like stoner fuzz rock jamming stuff to psych pop. It's actually a really broad spectrum, which is great. And sometimes even in the same band, can cover a lot of different ground.
One of the things I like about making music in the Northwest is how just it's geographically isolated from the rest of the country. So I feel like it's very different from being in like New York or LA or Chicago or someplace where there's just like already a huge music scene and like so many people that are working at this professional level, and this like just like so many famous people around you that in every style imaginable that can do anything better than you. And I feel like that's not really a thing that, I mean, there's definitely musicians in Seattle that are like, that I look up to as being like, just infinitely better than me, but they're not like necessarily big celebrity famous people. They're like hermits and people that kind of just keep to themselves and like just focus on doing what they do and are just really good people, and like people aren't really chasing fame and sort of like claw pile of competition that I think you find other places. So everybody just kind of gets to do whatever they want, and nobody is really trying too hard to convince everybody how great they are or anything like that. I think it's just people just do what they're into and and then just work at it and get good at it. And so it can be more interesting that way.
There's a really young writer in Seattle named Kelton Sears who just wrote a piece this last year for Seattle Weekly called "In Search of the Mystics," and it kind of takes as a point of departure this essay written by an artist in Seattle named Matthew Offenbacher. It's about sort of the painting schools and the visual art history of the Northwest being idiosyncratic and isolated and sort of mystically influenced by in this kind of dark, heavy nature kind of way, which is different. I mean, the psychedelic music that came out of the Bay Area in the 60s or like wherever, it's just like whatever comes out of Seattle is very influenced by old growth forests and rain and decay and everything. So some of the bands that he profiled are like Wolves in the Throne Room and to some other extent like Mass Musicians of Bukkake, that are like kind of come from a place where there's like heavy guitar rock, it comes like from a doomy, like almost like metal or sludge kind of place, but then becomes really like artful and avant-garde. It's like things grow from a place of this sort of like history of like heavy music in Seattle. I think what's happening in Portland is really different because there's a lot of people moving there because of like they're interested in like the avant-garde music scene and they're doing modular synth stuff, and there's a lot of electronic dance music, and it doesn't have the same history that Seattle has of like heavy like rock music. And so I think like just anything you're doing in Seattle has this like patina of, it's going away now, as Garrett was saying, like condos are kind of coming in and everything's tidying up the old dive bars, but there's still like like I'll never forget trying to like set up for a show at the Comet and our original drummer Chris like being like 15 minutes, because somebody definitely barfed on his floor tom on the way to the bathroom, and it's like this is like not a super pukey kind of rock show, but it doesn't matter, it's fucking Seattle. It's like I don't know. It's just like it's got like a like a dark energy, certain dark energy for sure.
Like this interview.
Maybe that I think is like different from other places. Like when you go other places, it's like people have their own sort of geographical take on whatever is the way they tap into the big thing. But in the Northwest, it tends to be like kind of like what David was saying, isolating and hermity and unpretentious, maybe to a certain extent, compared with some other more obviously commercially viable scenes.